I know context is important for you, so you're not speaking into a vacuum. And so just a general sweep of how you see kind of the sexual landscape throughout Western culture, so that we have a framing for any content that we put in that direction.
That's a great question. Some people trace it back to the invention of the pill when there was a significant shift. Once you separate sex from procreation, then you allow for all kinds of sexual experiences. In the past, the the possibility, or some might say the threat of having a kid out of this moment what was kind of it added some brakes maybe on sexual expression, but ever since the invention of the pill back in the 50s and 60s, I mean, that was kind of a big turning point. But beyond that, I mean, we live in a secular culture, and of course, a culture, a society, a nation that isn't submitting to the lordship of Christ, or who doesn't have a higher authority to appeal to, of course, they're going to pursue their own desires or construct a sexual ethic that might not resonate with Christianity. So this is where, some Christians who still want to think that America is like a Christian nation, they get all kind of freaked out that, where have we gone as a nation? It's like, well, I don't know if we ever were that Christian to begin with. So I mean, it's no matter where we are now, it's way, way more conservative than first century Rome, the context that early Christianity was born out of. That's I like to remind people. We've been here before, so whatever seems like crazy or whatever, it's not that abnormal for a Christian living in a secular society.
No, that's helpful. I heard it was John Mark Comer, a pastor out on the West Coast, and he said it's not that we're living in a post-Christian nation. We're just interacting with the idea of a pre-Christian nation. Like a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily new. It's just that Christianity renovated the West in such a way that we're seeing things fall apart, and we're kind of like scrambling and panicking because of that. And I found good resonance with those observations.
That's a great point. Yeah, as always, John Mark usually hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, he's a winsome dude. Yeah, there's I kind of see like the polarity of it with like conservatives. They don't necessarily, conservative Christians don't always see the worst of hookup culture. And so sometimes it's easier to ignore, despite the fact that, I mean, stats say like 96% of Christian men have viewed porn. So like that's its own thing. But nonetheless, they can kind of ignore what's going on. But then you read in like the Atlantic or the Washington or whatever, where they're doing articles on hookup culture, like the latest dating apps and those kinds of things. So it really is a mess of a landscape when you try and make sense of it all.
It is fascinating how, Christians, and I hate the stereotype, but let's just say the more conservative brand of Christianity can sometimes not pay attention to kind of the cultural movement that's been going on. I recently wrote an article about polyamory in Christianity today. It has to do with plural relationships, 3 or 4 or 5 or more people in relationship with each other. And some people were just like so startled by it, why are we even talking about this? This is crazy. But this has been a conversation in society for 10, 20 years, and this isn't, 5% of the population is currently in a plural relationship, and 20%, according to one survey, has been in some kind of plural, they call it, consensual non-monogamy, where it's like, hey, you can go, fool around with this person. It's, I'm fine with it. Yeah. This has been kind of the normal in culture, which again doesn't mean Christians should normalize it. We should always be, we should always be not attracted to the, a sexual ethic that deviates from God's plan. But at the same time, we shouldn't be so shocked when we hear about it. We shouldn't have our head in the sand either. So. Yeah.
I had heard you say a while ago. It was kind of with your interaction with Justin Lee. I think that was probably last year, but you were talking about the kind of the cliche of hate the sin, love the sinner, and then your kind of twist on that of like hate this, love the sinner, hate our own sin. Because this has invaded our own homes, whether we are willing to actually acknowledge that and yeah, just speak about it or even like seek help about it. I mean, we as a ministry, Proven Ministries, we go in and partner with churches because we don't want to like be just like a para-church organization where people are like, oh yeah, like go to the church for the word of God, but then come over here to Proven Ministries for help with, sexual integrity. It's like, no, we want to go in and train and equip within the church. I want to be a resource that way. And I couldn't tell you like how many times we get pushed away because the pastors say it's not an issue, or like they get sheepish about the stuff. And on a few occasions, like a year or two later, like their own stuff comes out in a public way, and they wouldn't have us come in because of their own ish, Wow. So it's like it's in our homes, it's in our churches, and it's devastating.
Yeah, better to deal with it head on and admit it with humility than like these things don't exist inside the church.
For sure.